Okay, guys, so please don't forget to turn your cameras on before we start the class and try to leave them on, of course. Okay, guys, sorry for that. I was having some connection trouble, but I think I could fix it. All right, then. So today, and actually this week, we're going to be looking at the reading section. We're long done with the writing, so we're going to start with the reading now. So I think it's important to say that it's not going to be, I mean, this section is a bit harder to work on. It's not that it's, inherently hard, but it is a bit more complicated to work on this section because I think it requires some previous knowledge from you guys. And when I say knowledge, I don't really mean like knowledge on science or any of the topics that you will read in this section, but I mean like, vocabulary or comprehensional skills, reading skills in general. So it does require some skills that you need to have beforehand. However, we're still going to cover the main stuff. We're going to see how to approach this section and how to maybe improve a bit. But it's a bit different than from the reading and the speaking that we have been seeing. So you will see that. All right. So about the structure of the reading section. So, well, what you have to do in the reading is, as you may be expecting, read some stuff. You're going to be reading some texts, and then you're going to be answering some questions. Okay. Now, this text that you will be reading are basically passages. So do you guys know what a passage is? Anybody knows? What's a passage?
Yes, it's a small reading, like an extract from a textbook.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. So yeah, it's that. It's like an extra from a longer text from a textbook, as David says, and it's going to be an extract from an academic topic. So it's going to be something. I mean, it's going to contain academic topics, which doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be hard or you have to know a lot of stuff. They could be on the soft sciences, like maybe on the humanities, like psychology or literature maybe, or they could be on the harder ones like biology or physics sometimes. But either way, you don't really have to know anything before you get here. You just have to, I mean, technically you just need to know the language, So you will have 3 or 4 sets of questions or 3 or 4 passages that you will be read, and each passage has 10 questions. So it's 3 or 4 sets of 10 questions, which makes a total of 30 or 40 questions. Now, why you may be asking, why am I not giving you an exact number? Why am I not saying like 3 or 4 exactly? So because I don't really know, it depends. It's basically random, but it's gonna be fair, no worries. It's gonna be well balanced. If you have 4 passages and you have a longer reading section, that means that you will have a shorter listening section. So it's going to be compensated for you. And if you have a shorter reading section, you will have a longer listening, but it's all going to be balanced. It's going to be fair. So you shouldn't worry about that. And another thing, if you have 4 passages, that also means that one of them is going to be unscored. So it's not going to be worth any points, but of course you don't know which one that's going to be. So if you get 4 passages, don't try to not answer one of them, because you don't know which one is the one that's not going to be scored. So you just have to answer everything. And well, let's hope for that passage to be the one that you're not so good at. So we're going to see it. And again, 10 questions each passage. And regarding time, they give you either 54 or 76 minutes, obviously depending on how many passages you have. So if you have 3, then you get 54. And if you have 4, then you get 76. And if you want to know how much time you have per passage, that would be 10 minutes exactly. But obviously you have to leave some time till the end. So, and you got to be, careful and with time, because I think that, to be honest, one of the biggest struggles here is time. So it would be ideal if you could answer a passage in at least 16 minutes, so that you have some time until the end to review or answer some questions that you have guessed. We're going to see how that works, but that's basically regarding time. So is this okay so far? Any questions about the structure? 3 or 4 passages, 10 questions each. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you some basics, have some general tips I could give you, or things that you should know. All right, so the first one, regarding the strategy that you will use. So I think it's important that you guys know that there are many things, or there are many ways in which you could approach this section. You could first read the passages and then answer the questions like it's supposed to be, or you could first scan the passage and then try to answer the questions while you read, or you can read and answer at the same time. There are many strategies that you will find if you go online, if you're looking for the perfect one. I wouldn't say there's such a thing. So it really is going to depend on you. So my advice is just practice, do some practice sets and try to use all the strategies and figure out what works better for you. Try to look mainly at how good you are with time. If you think you're struggling a bit with time, you're always running out of time, and you don't get to the last passages, then I think your strategy would be to not read the passage and try to answer hand in hand. But if you think you're good with time, then why not? You could read first if that makes you feel like you understand better, and then you answer the questions. So, I think that's important to know. Another thing is that please try not to skip questions. Don't ever skip questions, because there's no penalty for a wrong answer. So if you got one wrong, it's the same as if you leave it in blank, So that means that you have better chances of getting it right, or maybe guessing, if you choose one randomly. Even if you're not 100% sure of your answer, please make sure that you don't leave any questions in blank, because that's just going to make you lose any chance at maybe getting those points. So just try not to do that. Try not to jump around either. I think how this works. Well, basically you get the reading and then the questions, and you get the 4 passages at once. So you can go to passage 3, you can start with passage 3 and then go back to 1 and then to 4. And when you're answering the questions, you can answer the 10 at the beginning, then the first one, and then the 7th one. So you can do that, but there's no need of doing it, so it's just maybe gonna just mix you up. So try to go in order. They go from easier to harder, so I think it's a good idea. And they're also in the same order that you had the info in the text, so there shouldn't be any reason for you to do that. Try not to get stuck, and this is because of time. If you want to have an average in which you want to, an average time that you should be spending per question, that will be 1.5 minutes, but it depends on the type of question. We will see. Take a piece of paper with you, because you'd have to take notes. And when I say take notes, I don't mean take notes from the passage itself, but you gotta take notes on the questions that you're gonna be guessing. So take a piece of paper with you, try to write down these numbers, like from 1 to 10 for each passage 1, 2, 3, and even if you have a 4th one. And you're going to be answering them. And as you go, you will see that some questions you're not going to be so sure. So in order not to get stuck, you will circle them, take a guess, and move on. So then at the end of the whole reading section, not at the end of each passage, you can go back to these questions that you have guessed and try to get them right, try to figure out what the answer could be. But at the beginning, just try not to get stuck. Try not to be like, if you feel like, oh, I think I may know the answer, but I just need to read a bit more. I just need to think a bit more. Please don't. Just guess and move on. The final questions are always the hardest. So you want to leave some more time till the end. Maybe you can do the first ones 1 minute and then leave 1:30 for the end. Try to leave some time to review. And only review at the end of the whole reading section. I already said this. So I think that's pretty much it. Any questions now so far? Okay, guys, that's good, because now it's gonna get interesting. So we're gonna be looking at the types of questions that you can have. And I think that's the main thing, that's the most important part of this class. So where is it? Where am I? Okay. So we're going to be going through each type of question that you can have, but we're also going to be prioritizing, the ones that are the most, the ones that are most important. So you can have 10 types of questions. There are 10 types of questions in this reading section. You got from vocabulary questions, detail, exact, inference, and so forth. And here's a table of frequency. So frequency basically means, how frequent they are is how often you're going to see these questions. So the most frequent ones are the ones that are going to be appearing more in each set of questions. So I think it's important to notice that these two here, vocabulary and detail, are the most frequent types of questions, which makes them the most important ones. You can have, imagine you have five vocabulary questions and 4 detailed questions. So that would be 9 out of 10 in your set of questions, right? So you could have that. Probably not, but maybe you could have 7 vocabulary and detail together. So they are really important. We're going to be taking a bit more time to look at them. And also the summary question at the end, which is also important, not because you have a lot of them, but because it's worth a bit more. So I think this summary question is worth 3 raw points, while the other ones are worth 1 raw point. So basically, I think those 3 are the most important types of questions. You really want to perfect them, you want to master them, and make sure you get that part down. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. I think today we're going to be looking at these 2, and next class we'll probably, or maybe 3, I don't know. We're going to see how good we're at it. So any questions before we start looking at this? Is it all okay? Okay, guys, so we're going to start with the vocabulary questions. As I was saying, these are high frequency questions, the most frequent one. And I think I personally like these ones because you don't need to read everything to answer these questions. So that's a really good thing when you're competing against time, you don't have to read not even the whole paragraph, not the whole, let alone the whole passage to answer these questions. So that's why I like them. But of course, you do need some vocabulary. So you have to have some reasonable, a reasonable extent of amount of vocabulary in order to be good at this. What they're asking for is the synonym of a word, but not just any synonym. It needs to match both in meaning and in context. You're going to see what I mean there. And you can just read a sentence and you will be good. So, okay. In order to see the types of questions, we're going to be using this reading set here, which is offered by the official ETS website. So I think it should give you a good idea of how how the passages are going to be and how the questions are going to be. So it should be pretty, realistic. So let's start with this one. We're going to start with question 2, which is the only vocabulary one, I think, this one. And we're not going to read, by the way, we're not going to read the entire passage first. We're going to use the second strategy. We're going to be answering the questions as we read. So we're just going to read the parts that we need for each question. Okay? So even though we're not going to read, here's my first tip for today. Always read the title. Okay, that should give you not only in the reading, you know, but in the listening, in the speaking. Always don't forget to read the titles. I think that's something that people who's a bit distracted or maybe rush do. So try not to do that. Always read the title. It's going to give you a good idea of what the passage will be about. So here we have the rise of Teotihuacan, or Teotihuacan. Yeah. So what do you guys think? What do you think this passage is going to be about? What do you picture in your mind when you hear this? What can the passage be about?
History.
History, nice, yeah. It's probably on history, yeah. What else? What does that mean, the rise of Teotihuacan? What's rise? Any thoughts? Maybe.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It's like the beginning of something big that is going to be very big, I don't know, empire or something like that in this case.
Okay, yes, that's good. I'm not sure if it's the beginning of it, but yes, it's like how it develops. Yeah, so like in general, right? No, maybe from the beginning to when it's powerful and completely developed. Okay, any other ideas?
It's the history of, or not the history, it's the story of how it became as the great, it became the great city as we know it.
Perfect. Yes, that's great. So it's the story about how it became the great city that we know. So yeah, it must be that Teotihuacan is a powerful, maybe wealthy, popular, well-known city, or I don't know if it's a city. Maybe it's well, I have a city here. Maybe that's why I'm saying. But yeah, it's probably how the city grew. You know, how it developed and so on. So we're gonna start, as I was saying, with question 2, which is the vocabulary one. So, okay, so here we have the question. We're going to start by reading it. Will anybody read the question and the options for me? Maybe.
Ingenuity. The word ingenuity in paragraph 2 is closeting, meaning to.
Okay. And we have A, ambition, B, sincerity, faith, and cleverness. All right, thank you, David. So before we even read, do you guys know this word? Can anybody guess what the answer is? Ingenuity, have you heard it?
Cleverness.
Cleverness, okay. Everybody agrees? Anybody has something else?
Ambition.
Ambition, okay. Do you all agree? Anybody who has another one? Okay, so we're gonna figure it out. All right, either ambition or cleverness. I like your options. I think they're good ones. So that's the first thing you guys do when you have a vocabulary question. The first thing you do is you look at meaning. So try to think if you know the meaning of the word. If you know this word ingenuity and you know a synonym of it, then just answer the question and move on. You know, you don't have to even read. However, if you don't know, or if you're not 100% sure what the meaning is, if you're like, it could be ambition or maybe cleverness, maybe faith, so then you have to look at the second thing, which is context. And we're going to be doing that. So in case you don't know what ingenuity is, you don't know what the answer is, just reading the question, let's see how you could answer it. So Okay, so we're going to be reading this, maybe not everything. And here's another tip for the reading in general. So one thing I do that has worked for me, and I think it'll probably work for you as well, is when I want to know what one paragraph is about, I just read the first sentence or the first or second one maybe. But that's it. I don't need to read everything to know what the paragraph is about, you know? And you may, and why is that? Well, basically because I don't know if you guys remember from the writing section, but remember that the first line was kind of like an introduction, even in the writing, right? I said, introduce your argument and then support it. So believe me, it's the same thing here. The good thing is that you know how the structure of a reading is. So in the first sentence, you will have like a short introduction of what the whole paragraph is going to be about. And then everything else is pretty much just an explanation, maybe supporting reasons and evidence and everything else. But at the beginning, you have that intro and you better make a good use of it, you know? So that's what I do. You know, I read the first sentence of each paragraph and there, like, you know already what the paragraph will be about. So we're going to do that. We're going to read the first sentence and we're going to try to answer the question. So maybe, Cayetano, do you mind reading the first sentence for us?
Sure. How did this tremendous development take place and why did it happen in the Teotihuacan Valley? Among the main factors are Teotihuacan's geographic location on a natural trade route to the south and east of the Valley of Mexico. The Obsidian One resource in the Teotihuacan Valley itself and the valley's potential for extensive irrigation. The exact role of other factors is much more difficult to pinpoint. For instance, Teotihuacan's religious significance as a shrine, the historical situation in and around the Valley of Mexico towards the end of the first millennium BC, the ingenuity and forcefulness for Teotihuacan elite, and finally the impact of natural disasters such as the volcanic eruptions of the late first millennium BC.
Okay, thank you so much. Perfect. So you read the whole paragraph. That's good as well. It's going to help us understand better. So what is the paragraph about? Can anybody tell me?
Factors that influence Teotihuacan.
Factors that influence Teotihuacan development, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. That's it, David. So yes, it's about the factors that influence the development of the city. So as you can see, it's kind of in the question, you know, how does this development happened and or take place and why did it happen in the city? And then you have a list of things. If you guys realize, this is an enumeration called like a literally device. And you have a list of things, you know, you have among the main factors are geographic location, this and this and that. And you have the exact word of other factors is, and the word that we're looking at, the word that we care about is one of those factors, you know, it's within the list of things. So one factor that influenced the development of Teotihuacan is the ingenuity and foresightness of Teotihuacan's development. So now you have some idea there. So I think that could also help us eliminate some options, right? Because if I'm ask you this, do you guys think that sincerity or faith could be like good, strong factors to influence the development of the city? Do you guys think that could work? The sincerity was a good factor or the faith of the Teotihuacan's elite? What do you think?
I do.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. So it could be, you know, it depends on the person. So you maybe you're a religious person or you believe in values and you think that can lead to a good development, but you also want to relate it to context, you know? So you're talking about other things, you know, it's not really about morals here. It's about things like geographic location, obsidian resources. So it's about maybe a stronger things, or not stronger, but more objective stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay. And another thing that you guys want to look at is this, the second word that you have here, preciseness. So do you guys know that word? Do you know what it means?
Like the predictions.
Good. Yes, it's about making predictions, or like the ability to look at the future. You know, if you don't know the word, the meaning of a word, another thing you can do is try to break it down. So if you look at foresightedness, then it kind of explains itself, you know? That ness part at the end, for instance, is just telling you that it's a noun, like cleverness or laziness or foresightedness. So that ness just means that it's a noun. But the other part, foresight, so sight, you know what sight is?
Means to be able to see.
Exactly. And for, I think you can relate that piece of the word to words like, you know, forehead or forecast, the weather forecast, you know, or before even. So it's the ability to see or to predict things, to see how they, or yeah, to predict, to make predictions about the future and like use those predictions in your favor, you know? So that also helps you answer the question, you know, because one thing you know is that ingenuity and foresightedness, they need to be similar. They're close. If you look at the list of things again, these things are separated by a comma, right? But ingenuity and foresightedness go together. So they must be similar in some ways. So again, what word would be closest to, you know, foresightedness, now that we know the meaning of foresightedness? Sincerity and faith, I mean, maybe faith, you know, if you can predict the future, maybe, but I don't know. You really want to think it through. So now that you know that you know the meaning of foresightedness, that you know it's it's basically a factor that influences the development of the city. What do you think? Is it A or D, or maybe B or C if you still want to go there?
Teacher, I think that the answer is the D.
D1, cleverness. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, that's actually the answer. It's cleverness. So that's really close to foresightedness, right? And it makes sense. Cleverness means basically being knowledgeable, like being intelligent, if you want, or smart, or like, yeah, to have a lot of knowledge. To be clever is like you say that all people are clever, you know, because they know how things are. So yeah, cleverness is closely related to foresightedness, and it also makes sense when you think about factors that influence the development of the city. So the cleverness and foresightedness of Teotihuacan Cell. Ambition could also be, you know, it could be a good factor. If they're ambitious, then maybe they can get great things, but it doesn't really make that much sense when you think about this other word. So great, guys, I think it's B. Okay, another thing I want to say, you know, ingenuity, I've had people tell me, you know, I think it's sincerity. And because they were thinking of the word ingenuidad in Spanish, so that's actually something very tricky. You may be thinking that it looks like it, you know, it's like a, you know, ingenuity, you can relate it to ingenuidad, and then you say it's sincerity. So that's something that they do maybe on purpose to trick you into choosing the wrong answer. So if you're not 100% sure that you know the word, that you know the meaning of the word, then at the beginning, try not to choose one just because you think you may know the translation or something. So careful with things. And yeah, that's basically it. So meaning and context.
Are they trying to trick Latinos specifically?
Well, to be honest, Spanish speakers are the ones that take this test the most. So probably yes.
Okay.
So yeah. All right, guys. So any questions about this type of question, vocabulary questions? Okay, guys. So moving on to the second type. we have detailed or factual questions. So these questions are asking for specific detailed information that's directly or explicitly stated in the passage. So you don't really have to do that much reasoning here. You just have to read, understand, and then answer the question. You don't need some like vocabulary. I mean, you do need vocabulary, but it's not like in the first one, you know? So you just have to basically look for the information they're asking for. But we're gonna see what it's about. It's basically about finding keywords. I'm sorry. Okay. Keywords. It's also about narrowing down your information. We're gonna see that. And it's also about paraphrasing or using synonyms. So it's a very frequent question. You could have either 2 or from 2 to 4 per passage. And you do have to read, okay? In this case, you cannot answer without reading. You don't have to read the entire passage or the entire paragraph even to answer the question. So I think that's another thing I like about this type of question. All right, and so now we're gonna be looking at question 5 from this practice set, which is the detailed question. All right, guys. So can anybody read the question? Anybody wants to read?
Which of the following allowed Teotihuacan to have a competitive edge over its neighbors?
Okay, and the options too, please.
A well-exploited and readily available commodity. B, the presence of a highly stable elite class. C, knowledge derived directly from the Olmecs about the art of tool making. And D, scarce natural resources in nearby areas such as those located in what are now the Guatemalan and Mexican highlands.
Okay, thanks so much. So, all right, we're gonna read, probably not the entire thing. You're gonna, okay, maybe we can read the entire paragraph. So maybe, I don't know who's there. Maybe Joaquin, would you read the paragraph, please?
All the paragraph? Yeah. It seems likely that Teotihuacan's natural recourse, along with the city elite's ability to sorry, teacher. Need to practice that. It seems okay.
Bueno,
Integración.
contemos chistes.
I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with my internet today.
You have a ghost there.
I'm sorry.
You have a ghost there
Where do I have a ghost?
at your house.
Why?
Because he's he's screwing up your internet connection.
Okay, you scared the hell out of me. Okay. All right. So yeah, I think I do, but all right, let's hope it doesn't happen again. Okay, guys. So all right. So I was asking Joaquin to read. I don't know if you got to read it. Did you? Or you want?
Teacher,
Yeah.
okay, I will start again, or
Have you read it? Have you read the whole thing?
a little, but I don't know where. Okay, I will start again.
Okay. Thank you so much. And sorry.
Okay, it seems likely that Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize their potential, gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. That valley, like many other places in Mexican and Guatemalan highlands, was rich in obsidian. The hard volcanic stone was a resource that had been in great demand for many years, at least since the rise of the Olmecs, a people who flourished between between
1200.
sorry
1200. Okay. Just keep on. That's okay.
okay and 400 before Christ, and it apparently had a secure market. Moreover, recent research on obsidian tool found at Olmec and seeds has shown that some of the obsidians obtained by the Olmecs originated near Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan obsidians must have been recognized as a valued commodity for many centuries before the great city arose.
All right. Thank you so much, Joaquin, for reading. All right. So now, do you guys know what the answer is before we look at how to approach the question? Anybody knows? Or can you guess? Would you take a guess?
D.
D, okay. Anybody else? Okay, and why D, David?
Because in the first line of the paragraph, we can read that Teotihuacan's natural resources gave the city a competitive edge.
Okay, so yeah, you just, okay, it's interesting because you just told me what the answer is, but I'm not sure if it's D. We're gonna see. So, okay, so as David says, this is the answer. What he just said, natural resources along with the city stability. Am I right? Because, okay, so first thing, there are three things that you have to do in this when you have this type of question, which is very frequent, by the way. So the first thing you want to do is you want to find your keywords, identify your keywords, and then find them in the text. So your keywords are going to be those words that are repeated both in the question and in the paragraph. So here in a question and in the paragraph. So I think it's quite easy to find the keywords here because you have a quote. You know, this, look at these quotation marks. So this is a quote extracted from the paragraph, you know, so it's quite easy. It's even highlighted. These are the keywords or part of them. So a competitive edge over its neighbors. Okay, there's one thing, one tip, one big tip I could give you for this type of question. Usually your answer is just gonna be found in probably one sentence, okay? It's kind of never gonna be in the whole, paragraph. So that's a very common mistake that people do. They try to read the entire thing and they try to make a summary of it and find a summary of the whole paragraph in the options, and they think that's the answer. But that's not the case. Remember, this is a detailed or factual question, and it's because you have a very specific detail. It's a factual thing. So it's probably not going to be in the whole paragraph. You don't really have to summarize anything. You just have to paraphrase things. So we will see that. Okay, another thing I can tell you is that your answer is probably going to be very close to your keyword. So it's going to be somewhere around that. Okay, now let's look for synonyms too. So would you guys say that gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors is the same as saying allowed the city to have a competitive edge over its neighbors? Would you say that's the same, or is it similar? Is it close enough to consider it? Yeah, right, it's kind of the same. Gave the city a competitive edge, allow the city to have a competitive edge. So it's pretty much the same thing. And we have our keywords already. So now you just have to look at what's before that and you will find your answer, right? Because they ask what allowed the city to have a competitive edge, which is the same as saying what gave the city a competitive edge. So what gave the city? Whatever it's before that, right? This whole thing gave the city a competitive edge over its neighbors. So that is the second thing that you guys do. You narrow your information down. You remember, it's not going to be in the whole paragraph. So you got to narrow it down. You got to look at just one part of the text. Okay. So you want to find that part where your answer is. And this is what David said, right? He said, because Teotihuacan's natural resources and this is the city. So that is the information that you're looking at. Now, the third thing you guys want to do is you look for synonyms, or you basically paraphrase that answer. So what you need to do is find a paraphrase of this, Teotihuacan's natural resources, along with the city elite's ability to recognize the potential in one of the options. As the same thing, but in different words. Now, I don't recommend you guys go for things that contain something that's different. For instance, option D has something about Guatemalan and Mexican highlands, or option C has something about the Olmecs and tool making. So even if that is after your, later in the paragraph, like here, or tool making maybe here, even if it's there, if it's not within your sentence, within the sentence that you have chosen to look at, near to your keywords, try to eliminate those options, okay? Because as I said, it's never gonna be a summary. It just has to be a paraphrase of this, okay? So with that being said, what do you guys think? Are you still gonna go for D? Anybody has a different answer?
I think now it's A.
A, okay, good. And why A?
Because the readily available commodity is it's about the natural resources Teotihuacan had, and this readily available commodity was well exploited because of the ability of the city elites to recognize their potential.
Okay, perfect, Adrian. So that's right. I think A is the answer, actually. And you're completely right about everything you said. So you know what Adrian just did? He paraphrased everything. You know, he found the synonym. So he said readily available commodity is a synonym for natural resources. And that makes total sense because commodity, if you guys know, is a synonym for resources, right? It's basically the things that you own, the things that you possess. It's the yeah, like if you're talking business, it will be like the stock that you have, but in general, it's the wealth that you have, you know, the resources that you have. And readily available is just a synonym for natural, isn't it? Because when something's natural, then it means that it was readily available from the moment the city was established, so it's there already. And as Adrian explained, well exploited just means, you know, if they had the ability to recognize their potential, they exploited it as well. So that's perfect. A is the answer. Now, if you look at B, B may be tempting as well because you have something about the elite class. So some people may also go for B, but the reason why B is not the answer is because it's just talking about one thing. Remember that your answer, what you're looking for, has two elements in it. It's about the natural resources, one, and it's also about this along with, by the way, just means and, right? So this is and. It's about the natural resources and the city elite's ability, blah, blah, blah. So the natural resources and the city elite. So it cannot be just one thing. This is just one element. So it's not B. C and D are talking about things that are not within our focus, within our what we're looking at, you know. And yeah, A is just a synonym, like a paraphrase of this whole thing. So that's what you gotta do, guys. First thing, you find your keywords. Second, you narrow your information down, and third, you just paraphrase. Believe me, it's almost never gonna be. You're never gonna have to read the entire thing. It's gonna be just one sentence. You will see. Okay, guys. Any questions about that? No questions? Okay, so let's do something. You're gonna answer one or probably two. So here's a question. It's also a detailed question from the same from the same passage. According to paragraph 4, it says. Okay, it's about the same, maybe I can even take a picture. Okay. So you need to answer this question now. So it shouldn't take you that long. I'm gonna leave you there with the, okay, I took a wrong screenshot. Okay, but I just sent the question through the chat so that you can have it there as well. Please try to read and answer it, and you'll tell me what it is. Okay, now. Okay. So here it is, guys. Please try to answer this question and let me know if you got the answer. Okay, guys, so has anybody got it yet?
Is it D?
Yes, D.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, perfect. It is that was nice. So some of the obsidian used by the Olmecs came from the area around Teotihuacan. So it's just a paraphrase of this, right? What has recent research on obsidian tools found Olmec sites shown? And you have your keywords here, and then you have the answer. Has shown that. So whatever comes next is your answer, right? And as you can see, it's the same as we did in the previous question, right? It's in one sentence. You don't have to read the whole thing even, you know, once you find your keywords, then it's a lot easier because you don't need to read. So you can even, it's just practice, you know, but you can, if you're a fast reader, you can just basically scan through the text and look for the keywords, and you will get it. So, and then you have synonyms, right? Originated, came from, near, around. So you have a lot of synonyms, but it doesn't mean that it's something else. It's the same thing still. So, yeah. All right, guys. So now, do you have any questions about that type of question that we just saw? Okay. So I know that we took a bit long to just go over those two types of questions, but remember, those are the most important ones. Those are the most frequent ones. So that's what maybe we took a bit long. The next ones we're gonna go a bit quicker, but yeah, we will still see them. So no worries. Okay, guys. So any questions now or any comments, anything you haven't maybe gotten so clear? Okay, and so please, before you leave, would you please answer fill out the survey that I just sent? Okay, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you all next class, Thursday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
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 See you, teacher.
Bye, take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.